This video will be ranking the films by the amazing filmmaker David Fincher. He is known as a perfectionist who takes as many shots as it takes to get the scene how he wants.
Grueling in terms of the mindset you have to be in. And particularly with David, he does lots of takes, you know?
He has been making films for the last 30 years. In that span, he has created some of the most iconic film characters the medium of film has to offer. He started as a special effects guy and a commercial guy who even worked on Star Wars, but has turned into one of the biggest maestros behind the camera. I'd like to start this video off with an assumption that goes through all of his films. The cinematography is perfect and all the other technical aspects are just perfect for all of his films. I'm serious, I don't want to have to talk about it every single time with every film he's made, but let me name some common elements that you'll see in all of his films that are positives. He includes yellow and green lighting, which makes it super easy to get contrast when trying to portray a character in a certain mood. He has some of the most purposeful editing. He has really mastered the art of revealing information to the audience and the characters at the same time. As I said before, he's a perfectionist, so some of the details and the production design are absurd too.
You know, we cut them and brought them here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even think they were real.
Yeah, they're real trees, and
Helicoptered in, right?
helicoptered them in.
Let's get straight to it. Start the list. It's only up from here, fellas. Okay, another quick disclaimer. Fincher has completely disowned this film, and I don't blame him. You want a shot at directing, and someone gives you a script that you have no connection to, but it doesn't really matter. You're gonna say yes. Opportunities don't always come in your perfect terms. Alien Cubed is not very good, but thankfully, I would like to say the direction is the last thing to critique in this film. Oddly enough, the special effects might be the worst part of the movie. And no, this isn't CGI for the most part. They used puppetry and some stop motion techniques to get the alien effects here. That's why we can see it run on the ceiling like this. Sadly, this just looks terrible in the year 2022. I can admire what he tried to do, but it pulled me out so many times during this film and just made me stop and laugh. There are some bright spots in the special effects, like some animatronics on Bishop, but come on, the budget of Alien, 11 mil. Aliens, 18.5 mil. Alien Cube, 50 mil. The other part this film just really sucks at is having a competent screenplay. Here's a quick plot synopsis. Ripley's pod is found, and she has been awakened on a prison spaceship, hoarding, well, prisoners. But oh no, there's an alien on board. The schemes these prisoners make up are absolutely ridiculous. Ripley has been established as unkillable by the alien because she is hosting a baby alien, and this is the scheme they come up with. Let's use the prisoners as bait, instead of just using Ripley, to outrun the alien and lead them into a pit of hot lead. Like, why even jeopardize more lives? You already know Ripley is unkillable at this point. They also just assumed this alien couldn't outrun a human. Also, the audio mix is really horrid for some reason. Basic dialogue is fumbled when it's at a distance. And I like when this guy just gives up his lie after like a 5-second conversation.
You just want to take it back.
I want to kill it and take you home.
All we can learn from it. It's the chance of a lifetime.
Overall, Alien 3 is bad, but the bad parts aren't because of Fincher. I've rambled on enough about this. I shouldn't give this any more time of day. I'll make this quick. I'm so utterly bored by this movie, man. It's a pretty cool premise, but then you have to realize there are 3 hours to this movie, and the premise can only carry so hard. It's a very unique experience, but I can barely keep my eyes open during this. Everything in the technical department is seamless, and even the visual effects look pretty dope. I'm just not invested in the story besides what directly happens to Benjamin Button. Without compelling side characters, it's hard to feel as much as I probably should for Benjamin Button. I really have no interest in commentary on this. Let's just move on. Panic Room is probably one of Fincher's most simple movies. Jodie Foster and Kristen Stewart rent a new apartment with a panic room, and this panic room has a lot of money in it. There are really no deeper themes to this film, just a standard thriller with a pretty solid Jodie Foster performance. I do like the scene at the start where it just shows how uncomfortable she is when she's in the panic room under normal circumstances.
Open it, please.
And with kids like he's apparently got, no wonder he wanted a place to hide.
Please open the door.
That is highly inappropriate.
Open the door, please.
I love this long shot, which introduces the robbers to us. The way the robbers are shown to be subtly well prepared and well equipped for the situation, even though they're kind of goofy. Speaking of the robbers, Jared Leto and Forest Whitaker actually make a fantastic duo in this film. Whitaker's character is written perfectly well, as he's upfront with how he's unwilling to hurt anyone, and other circumstances have brought him to this point. Jared Leto's character is really just there to create conflict within the robbing trio. It's just your standard run-of-the-mill thriller, but I do have some problems with the writing. Jodie Foster's character calls her ex-husband, and the words are limited since the phone shuts off. but enough is demonstrated that the husband calls 911 trying to help his ex-wife. Okay, so danger has been established to this man. Cops have been called. Why did you show up to the house? Bro, you deserve this beating for having such an empty head. I felt like they could have been a lot more creative in the panic room, as they literally have cameras of the entire house so they can track where these fellas are. Last thing I'll mention about the screenplay is this guy gets absolutely clobbered. Okay, so like, you're dead. Nah, he just comes back and walks it off to cheat us in a very easy redemption arc for Whitaker's character. Don't get me wrong, I was satisfied by the conclusion he gets, but it was cheated and could have arrived at that conclusion in a much better way. Panic Room is the type of movie that I'll put on with my parents and we'll have a pretty good time, but it's not on the level that we expect out of David Fincher. I know this feels a little harsh, but hear me out. I totally commend this being an extremely passion-based project. His late father wrote the screenplay, and you can tell it's a movie for movie lovers. Now, I like movies. Why didn't I like Mank? Let's just start with the good, because yeah, this is still a pretty solid entry. It is totally commendable how well this movie is made. Mank is about the screenwriter of Citizen Kane rushing to finish the script on time. Obviously, Citizen Kane was in 1941, so the film looks like this and sounds like this.
Let's have that cuppa, Mrs. A.
This movie is about the process of cinema, and Mank itself is a process of cinema. Mank was shot in black and white and has this very grainy sound to it that gives it that 1940s vibe. There are plenty of videos going over in detail how all of this was achieved, but that's on you. Gary Oldman is such a standout here as he is charming and captured the golden age of movie making into one person so well. Mank is a product of the times, a crazy screenwriter who is a drunk with a gambling problem. My favorite scenes of the movie is when Gary Oldman is drunk acting. It is a huge pet peeve of mine when actors can't nail the nuances required to act drunk, but Oldman is just such a damn professional, and I'm glad he got to work with Fincher. It would be disingenuous to call this movie boring just because it's a black and white film about the 40s. This film is snappy, funny, and has a personality to it. Everything in this film is done to Fincher perfection, including the cinematography, performances, and a beautiful score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. But something about this script just doesn't hook me. It's extremely dense, which at moments complements the film, but this film is really enhanced by watching Citizen Kane and being a product of the times, or just a fanatic of the times. This is an extremely high barrier of entry, and I still really do enjoy this film. It's just something I'll probably never rewatch, but I view it as an ode to filmmaking that is important to the filmmaker. Okay, this is my biggest guilty pleasure. It honestly hurts me to have this movie down at 7, but that's just where it ended up. I rewatched The Game more than any other David Fincher movie, go figure. I don't want to dwell on this movie a lot because it would spoil the fun for first-time watchers. But wow, is this just not the most fun you've had while watching a movie? Fincher perfectly crafted a movie that is constantly adding more questions and adding more anxiety as you continue to watch. Michael Douglas is so darn good in this movie, and he has just such a huge character shift as the roller coaster goes straight down. He starts off as this rich dude that doesn't really have fun, he's rude, he's lonely, and shifts into a problem solver state. But I probably shouldn't have to reveal any more of this. You can tell this is probably the film where David Fincher became who he is, the perfectionist. I know people have problems with this film's ending, but I absolutely love the ending. Maybe a conversation for another day, but please just watch this with some friends and have a blast. This is where we get to the rest of the filmography being at least a 9 out of 10 for me. This was one of the Fincher films that I haven't seen before and entered with a completely fresh mind. It's another great investigation entry in his filmography along with Seven and Zodiac. First thing I have to say to this movie is, wow, is it dark? Fincher's darkest movie in his filmography, but it's just such a fascinating entry. The plot is about Daniel Craig's character being forced to investigate a family murder and solves it alongside a very eccentric investigator played by Rooney Mara. My god, does Rooney Mara just absolutely steal the show in this movie. There aren't a lot of very showy performances in Fincher movies besides maybe Fight Club and Seven. The rest are fairly tamed. This performance for me is just absolutely insane, and you can tell it's Rooney Mara giving it her all. She absolutely disappears in this role. You can't tell it's her. The pacing to this 2 hour 45 minute is somehow fast, comboed with one of the oddest structures I've noticed in a film. I know David Fincher did not write the screenplay to this film, but the source material still has to be arranged into a coherent structure by the orchestrator within 3 hours. Not many films can handle being so dense and not be overwhelming. What else do I like about this movie? Well, these characters are just so damn compelling. I absolutely love Stellan Skarsgård's performance and a lot of other supporting castmates. I'm a simple dude. I like a compelling story with compelling side characters that isn't predictable and has a few thematic punches. I get all of that here, and it's just such a fun, rewatchable ride. 7 is just as dark as The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but more engaging, better pacing, and a better antagonist. There's nothing unique to the structure of this film. Young cop gets paired with the old wise cop to solve a mystery. With that said, I love how the killer is just revealed in front of them when they're basically just at a dead end. Shows you that this film is not traditional and doesn't play by the rules other detective movies will die on. We get plenty of screen time to develop our characters, and that's what I love most about 7. I really don't want them to make that decision at the end, because I love these two characters, and I know it'll have a great effect on both of their lives. 7's really not about just locking up the bad guy. Some of these crime scenes makes me go under my blanket for a few seconds. I rewatched this not too long ago, and I thought the crime scenes would not affect me as hard as they did before on my first watch. I was very wrong. Somehow a movie famous for its gruesome crime scenes is actually pretty subtle at times. Yeah, this movie is just as good as you remembered it. What can I say about this movie that already hasn't been said? It's the greatest climax in film history that will never be forgiven or not quoted.
What's in the fucking box?
I love 7, but as a real alpha dude myself, I connect more with Fight Club, you know? No, seriously, the real testament to this movie is how many dudes actually idolize Tyler Durden like he was some figure to aspire towards, when in reality the movie is not that subtle about him being the point of the movie, and what masculinity can do to certain impressionable men. We all know a dude that took Fight Club just a little too seriously. We can talk all day about Fincher's perfect filmmaking, but he also has a talent for picking scripts that he knows he can enhance and give certain themes to the light. This is probably the go-to anti-consumerism movie that can be recommended, but Fight Club never feels one-noted. We have to talk about these performances. This is probably my favorite Brad Pitt performance behind 12 Monkeys, but it's really close. He really does just capture the alpha male energy in the most iconic way. This is a top 3 Edward Norton performance for me. He plays this office guy that's just kind of bored with life and starts attending like addiction meetings just for fun. An added aspect to his performance I really enjoy is the narration.
And again, it sees the day. My tuberculosis Friday night.
It kind of feels like a snarkier Mr. Robot. I love the way that all of the characters justify their actions, as it just gives us the inside scoop on their inner workings. I know I just said that 7 had the best climax in film history, but man, Fight Club has one of the best reveals in film history. On your first watch, this is still one of the most unpredictable and unique films you'll ever watch. I know it's been kind of trendy recently to just bag on this film, but I do think it holds up visually and on its thematic punches. Especially on its thematic punches. God, I love every theme that is covered here. We have capitalism, masculinity, death, and frustration, which is mostly the reason why I think it should at least be a top 5 Fincher movie. I want to start this segment out with a cool fact that is a testament to David Fincher. He found additional evidence to the case just because of how meticulous he was.
They became fantastic detectives. So I would be sitting at home. It would be 11, 12 at night. Jamie Vanderbilt or Brad Fisher, the producer, would call me, and they found new evidence. These guys, I think, did as much in finding new evidence and things to advance the case to a solution than the previous detectives.
I fully recommend the featurette to this movie, as it's probably my favorite. It shows you all the information that Fincher needs when adapting a non-fiction story. He gathered the real people who investigated the case and had the actors hang out with them and just become them. Especially Mark Ruffalo's character. You can tell a lot of care was put into this film, and it was never meant to glamorize the Zodiac killer, but show you the effects he had on the people investigating him, and the effects of the people that lived just near the killing. He had kids scared to go to school. You can tell this was the main influence when creating a show like Mindhunters, with the careful nature he approaches these tough subjects with. One of the best Fincher movies in terms of just editing, pacing, and honestly the effect it will have on you after watching it. It is his most professional movie. The portrayal of obsession in this movie is just fascinating. I don't have much to say about this movie, but it will go down as probably one of my favorite Fincher movies. The casting of Ben Affleck here is such a risk worth taking. The reason behind his casting is all of the media attention he's received in his career, making him the perfect Nick Dunn. Rosamund Pike really needs a new agent, because why has she not been in anything good ever since this movie? She was such an awesome standout. This screenplay really gave her ample opportunities to be nuanced, but she took advantage and makes this movie just that much more compelling. Not the biggest Tyler Perry fan, but he wasn't distracting and played the lawyer actually pretty well. The thematic elements behind the media in this film hit hard. The media takes every little detail as a chance to ruin Nick Dunn's life. There is something about crime films that complement Fincher's style and really elevates them. The perfectionist nature enhances your watch, because you know if something is in the frame, it's important. I think this is probably my favorite Fincher scene when it comes to just editing. The miracle of this film would be the speed that it flies at. This movie is 2.5 hours long, but paced extremely well. My god, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, can you stop making perfect Fincher scores? It adds to the disturbing tone. It's one of the best thrillers in recent memory that always leaves you guessing. One of those films that can get easily spoiled, so I'll let the experience of watching the movie speak for itself. Okay, we've made it. I knew this was going to be number one from the start, but my god, has it been solidified after rewatching all of these movies. My notes are long for this movie, so I'll condense it in the best way I can. The Social Network is about the story of Facebook, and how it was ultimately made to impress a girl. Disclaimer, I'm taking everything in this movie as 100% truth. In reality, the movie seems to favor Andrew Garfield's character a bit more. The film operates within its own reality, and the facts have no bearing on how I enjoy this film. I'm more of an introduction guy than a climax guy, and the start of this movie is so
Beautiful.
It's a perfectly written scene showing how self-centered and disinterested he is. The snappy pace and editing in the first 20 minutes showing him creating the foundation of Facebook while layering the Phoenix Party is so engaging and shows us what Mark wants to be a part of. At the heart of this film, it is a character study about a fragile male ego that insists on self-importance and how it will affect every type of relationship someone can even have. Mark wants to be the top dog. This entire movie is Zuckerberg looking for wide acceptance and wanting to be punk rock and cool, which is why he gels so well with the cool, elusive Sean Parker played by Justin Timberlake, who does just an excellent job playing the shady entrepreneur. The introduction to him is just absolutely phenomenal and cheeky.
Download and share music for free.
Kind of like Napster?
Exactly like Napster.
What do you mean?
I founded Napster.
Sean Parker founded Napster.
Nice to meet you.
What did he say? In this film, they really try to make Facebook look like a final club, with Mark wanting to be the president of that club. An element of this film that really hooks me is the structure of having the timeline take place during a deposition. It shows us what Mark has destroyed and how he really feels about his friends and how he felt about the Winklevoss twins. It gives the filmmakers an excuse to explore the story in a way that allows reactions from the characters after all the events have unfolded. The editing in these deposition scenes are just so fluid and full of life as well. Having this based on Facebook does give us some cute moments where certain features were discovered. Not saying they were true, but the relationship status part was a little fun. Even the parts of the script that are obviously fictional are awesome additions and give us much more background of the characters, like the scene in the deposition.
Mr. Zuckerberg, do I have your full attention?
No.
Garfield's performance in this scene alone is my favorite few minutes of a Fincher film. But yeah, what else hasn't been said about The Social Network already? After rewatching, I'm 1000% sure this was my favorite movie of the 2010s now. And that's the list. What Fincher movie do you think I'm overhating on? Which one do you think I'm underrating? Comment below what you think your favorite Fincher movie is, and why it's The Social Network.